Well, the curmudgeon in me, which is my job, I guess is why I was asked. All right, we're talking about DR stuff and corporate survival and all that stuff. How many people live or have lived in California? What do we know how to do instantly? Survive for 72 hours on our own. If the quake hits, you have some water, you've got some food, and you may not be talking to anybody. You may have to open a book for a couple days. A lot of what we also need to prepare for, if and whenevers and any of these scenarios, is how are 300 million of the unwashed masses going to react? Unwashed masses with deep respect, of course. But they are the ignorant masses that are causing a lot of the trouble. And whatever we do, we need to take them into consideration as to not only the technical issues, but the social implications of something that's going to go down. Now, I live here in Tennessee, and we had a huge ice storm last year. And my wife and I went out and said, oh, there's an ice storm coming. And we went to Walmart and bought up a lot of beer and pizza. The ice storm hits, and then there's 10,000 accidents during the ice storm for people going to Walmart to get their beer and pizza because they didn't plan. And a huge amount of this is not only our internal planning, it's a cultural and social planning that we're going to have to take into effect because we don't know how they're going to react.
So I have one more question, and then I'd like to open it up to the floor to get some questions from our audience. When I think about the comments of 90% of our critical infrastructure being in the hands of the private sector, but it makes me wonder about what that might mean if someone who has now an aggregation point for lots of traffic coming into the country, or who happens to process one of those cloud providers that happens to process phenomenal amounts of capability, and how that might impact all of our thinking, all of our calculus. Is that something that you think about? Does that bother you? What are your thoughts about that situation? Why don't I start with the curmudgeon?
When you bring that up, it makes me go immediately to World War II and the Battle of the Atlantic. And the Battle of the Atlantic was a single point of failure for to be able to give force projection capability to the troops. And so we had to come up with then another layer of defense in order to supply the civilian guys that are going out there. But we didn't privatize or treat the marks of demarcation or whatever that is from the Constitution, and we didn't set up privateering. We had the military support the private efforts. So in this case, I think that there may be a similar potential approach. Nationalization, I'm certainly not in favor of at all, but that's a personal political thing. But I do think that the private sectors want to keep going because it's about money. Government wants to keep going because it's about national security. And that I don't know if we have any plans at this point on how to coordinate the national support of the critical infrastructures with the Battle of Atlantic mindset. I don't know if we have that yet.